This is Mr. Shaw. Uh, I'm here to do a video on some basics in PowerPoint presentations. Also, I guess, some basics in graphic design and composition. What you're looking at right now is my desktop. I am at home here in Meyerland, just a few minutes away from school, hunkered down with my family. You may hear my son playing harmonica, or my wife cleaning up in the background. Don't be alarmed. That it's just quarantine. Um, anyway, I wanted to crack open this concept or this idea of looking at graphic design afresh, given the fact that we're moving towards distance learning right now. And so I thought I would start with PowerPoint, since we all have it and it's free. This is a Mac that you're looking at, but the PowerPoint is the same on PCs as it is on Mac. I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerPoint right now to a blank presentation. But before I go forward, I kind of want to address templates. These are templates that you see very often. I never use templates. It's almost like a rule for me. I can see why folks would use them. They're easy. In a pinch, you want something other than a white background, and it makes sense. But usually, you can create something even on the fly, even with very little time to get your product done, that looks authentic and is expressive of what you're trying to convey. If I am doing a presentation on circuitry, maybe I would use circuit, but I've never had to do that. The other thing is, you typically can tell, as I'm looking at Facet, it just looks so templatey, so template-ish, that it almost looks amateurish. That's one reason why I don't use templates, or a couple, I guess. But another reason why is sort of going back to the expressive idea. You're never going to find a template that properly expresses what you're trying to express. And you might as well get better at expressing yourself visually. So I'm going to go back to the blank presentation. When I cancel this, I'm back to my blank presentation. First things first. PowerPoint is not my favorite software. However, it does serve as a great canvas for images that you either get from the internet, which we will do here in just a second, or by way of taking photographs with your phone, which is a trick I use a lot. In fact, in a lot of the presentations that you've seen of mine, and you've seen many of my presentations, there's always photographic assets that I took with my phone. You might not recognize them as such, but they're in there. And so I'm going to go ahead and start today imagining that I'm a biology teacher. And I picked biology because there is a lot of sort of graphic value in biology. But also because I'm not a biology teacher, so I'm kind of out of my comfort zone, just to create something more authentic. If I were doing a presentation on history, it would be like an unfair advantage, because that's something that I've done for many, many years as a social studies teacher. But I've never been a biology teacher, so I'm going to do a title slide on a lesson about taxonomy or classification. I'm going to zip out of PowerPoint really quickly and jump into Google Chrome, which you see here for me. You could use whatever, Microsoft Edge, or doesn't matter. So I'm going to X out of that. I'm going to do a quick search, and this is one of my favorite tricks. I'm going to put UHD, and you can see it pop up there, bacteria wallpaper. Bacteria wallpaper. Okay. When I do that, I'll go ahead and go over to images. I'm going to go to tools and check the size large. How many times have you either attended a presentation or been responsible for one where the images involved are pixelated and it just looks horrible? You know, it can happen easily. It's not something that we want for our presentations, and it's frankly something to be avoided. Using this tools and going to this large size is going to help you avoid that problem. Another big problem you have when you do Google image searches is you'll see as I go through, I'm just going to pick this one for example, there's a watermark over the image. That kind of ruins, that's a deal breaker for me in this relationship between designer and image. That would be a deal breaker. It's certainly, if you don't have the software to remove it, a definite deal breaker. So how do we go about doing what we're going to do here? First, I'm looking for an image that looks like microorganisms, even to somebody who's not really a biologist. And when I think of bacteria, I think of this sort of pill-shaped microorganism. That's a super crisp image. If you hover your cursor over it, you'll see the resolution is 2560 by 1920 pixels. That's 4K. We're doing a presentation in what's effectively 1K. That's 1080p. So this should look great. And there's no watermarks or anything like that. So I will be a thief and right click on this guy and copy him straight away. I'm going to zip out of Chrome and head back over to PowerPoint, and where I will paste it down. You'll see that it doesn't match the aspect ratio, or the size, I should say, of our slide. As soon as I do, PowerPoint tries to imagine what I'm going for and gives me some options. And I'm not going to lie, they are pretty good. Some of them better than others. I kind of like this one down here. That's kind of nice. So let's go ahead and go with it. The issue that I have with this one is this orange block and this white line. Not my favorite. Can I click on it and remove the orange block? No. So let's not do that. Let's do this instead. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z to undo this this choice. I can achieve the same look relatively easily. In fact, I can do it on the side of the screen that I would prefer it to be. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and move this image over to the left. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, so it's going to go off the edge of the slide. Guess what? Nobody needs to know, and it's okay. In fact, let's just go ahead and go all the way. We have enough here in terms of visual data that it'll look crisp no matter what I do. I'm going to go ahead and do a full slide view just to give myself a preview. That looks awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and escape back to the sort of design view. This isn't enough, right? I need to convey a story, and I want to convey a story of simple organism all the way to complex organism. So when I think of a complex organism, I think of blue whales and elephants and things like that. Cool thing about elephants is, and we're going to go back to Google, I'm going to go ahead and type in elephant on white background. You see that has popped up. Obviously, I rehearsed this because I care about you that much. When I do that, I get tons and tons of these stock photos with watermarks. Again, deal breaker in this relationship. You know, we won't go past the first date. However, if you scroll through, you might get lucky, you might find something that works. I'm looking over here. I see that could work. Maybe this would work. Nope, watermarks. So let's go ahead and go with the one that I saw without. I hover over it. It's got a respectable resolution. It's not as big as our whole slide, and that's okay because that's not what we're going for here. You'll see what we're going for in just a second. I go ahead and copy this image, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to PowerPoint. When I put it down, you'll think, I've lost my mind. There's a subtle watermark here. I think we're going to be able to work around it, and here's how. So I've got this image here. I'm going to go to picture format at the tab here, and you see remove background. I'm going to click on that. PowerPoint automatically removes the background color based on an algorithm that it thinks works for me. It's a little bit off. You could see the top of I guess this is a mama elephant or daddy elephant, is sort of missing. These chunks of elephant are missing. If I were to go ahead and keep these changes, I'm going to end up with this weird elephant that's devoid of tusk and head. I'm going to go ahead and undo that, try again, and this time I'm going to use some tools to solve the problem. If you look in the corner, it says mark areas to keep, also has mark areas to remove. Our issue is that there's areas we want to keep that are not kept. So I'm going to click that tool, and I'm going to sort of loosely color in, and you do not have to be exact at all for PowerPoint to sort of get what you're trying to do. And it'll take back aspects of this image. I'm going to bring its tail back. There's no such thing as a tailless elephant. That's not sweet. All right, that's back. Let's go ahead and give it its leg back and its foot. So you can see, you don't have to be Da Vinci over here to get the job done. I'm just sort of using my trackpad. You could use your mouse. If you're a mouse user, you could use your mouse. Ironic, because this is an elephant and we know how they feel about mice. To get these feet back. Boom. We're looking a lot better already. What you'll find is a lot of that watermark is missing now, and it doesn't look nearly as bad. I'm going to go ahead and go along the tusk here just a touch, get my tusk back. Just as a little bit of tusk action here. Boom. There. That's looking pretty good for me. I'm going to leave baby out. I'm going to leave Warren photographic out. I'm just going to keep the adult elephant. I'm going to go ahead and keep those changes by clicking here. Now I've got an elephant floating in bacteria. His resolution isn't quite as good as the bacteria is. The way to solve that problem is sort of making him a lot smaller. You see, as we make him smaller, he gets a lot more clear and cute. Maybe I'm just a little bit of an elephant fan. You don't know what I like. And so let's take a look and see what his slide placement is like right now. That's pretty cool. Maybe a little bit lower. You'll see where I'm going in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and escape back to design view. We saw before what PowerPoint was trying to do with this slide. And I kind of liked it, but I didn't like some of the aspects of it that it put in. Like there's an orange box and some white lines that I wanted to be able to move, and I can't because that's one of the problems with templates. They're a little hard to manipulate, but when you make your own stuff, you have nothing to worry about. I'm going to go to Insert here, and I'm going to go to Shapes, which are right here. Like I said, I'm not typically a PowerPoint user, but I'm doing it for the cause. All right, I'm just going to make any old rectangle for the sake of this video. And I'm going to start working with its fill. So when you go to shape fill, I'm going to go to gradient. I'm going to more gradients. What we have here is an ability to create the same effect that we saw earlier. I'm going to remove some of these colors. I'm going to move this blue one over. You can see me on the slider over here where it says gradient stops. I'm going to double click on this blue one. Actually, didn't need to do that. Wrong software. And I've got black on one side. On this side, I'm also going to choose black, but we're going to do something slightly different. Where it says transparency at 0%, we're going to make that 100%. And so now we have that sort of black ombre look, if you want, if I can use a word from cosmetology, which I almost never do. We've got that. I'm going to line and make sure there's none around this image, this rectangle. Now my issue is that the angle is all wrong. I want the black to be here and fade out that way, like sort of the opposite of what we saw, or the mirror image of what we saw before. That's easy. We can change the angle here. As I change it, you'll notice it sort of float around. As we make it bigger, you'll see that effect. And eventually I'll get to 360. Come on, dude. 360. The entry must be less than or equal to 359.9. You know what's also the same as 360 degrees? 0 degrees. Boom. I always get what I want with PowerPoint. So let's go ahead and bring this elephant up ahead. We're going to reorder it. We're going to bring it to the front. Ta-da. We're going to move this black ombre rectangle into the back. And we're going to stretch it until we get the desired effect, like so. I'm still not getting as much black on one side as I'd like. I can move the slider and you'll see that start to disappear a touch. I can move this over, brighten up my bacteria on the other side. Pretty cool. When I go ahead and go to presentation mode, you'll see what I've created so far. Pretty cool. We're not quite there yet, but at least we don't have a template. We have a slide that's telling us a story, a visual story about microorganisms and an elephant. There's some irony here because the bacteria are actually bigger than the elephant. That could be something that you could develop in the course of the lesson. So what do we do to give us the spaces that we need for text? And that's always a big question with presentations. Where are you making space for text? And is it easy to read? So we're going to back out of here. I'm going to move my elephant down just a touch. And I'm going to go ahead and think about how I'm going to lay in some text. Unselect that rectangle, that super cool rectangle. I want to create some sort of a graphic rectangular line that sort of makes this elephant the kind of he's almost like the little page number in the bottom corner of a page. And so just sort of by creating the opposite color, we can do so pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead and hit shape again, rectangle again. This time we're gonna drop him down low. He sort of like becomes my, CNN ticker tape. I'm gonna go ahead and bring my elephant to the front again so you kind of see what I'm going for here. I can remove the line around the rectangle. You'll notice that there's a slightly darker line around the edge. It's up to you whether you want to keep it or not. I typically don't. I like simplicity when it comes to these things. I'm going to go ahead and hit no line on that one. So no line there. I kind of like the way this blue is looking. It just worked out for me. But I want it to be a little bit transparent. So I'm moving the slider down so you can still see the bacteria through it a little bit. That's cool. And then let's figure out how we're going to put text in this area. So I don't know what a biology teacher would call this lesson, but I'm going to make it up. Let's see. I'm going to go to Insert. I am going to go to text box, which is right here. And this is going to bring up a whole nother debate, and you guys know where I'm going with this one. Fonts, I know Miss Taub is over there just rolling over or laughing at me right now. But typography is important, people. And I'm going to prove it right now. Once again, you're going to laugh at me again. I know it. It's okay. I'm used to being laughed at. But my presentations look good, so whatever. So I'm going to drop down here into fonts. Calibri is your default font. It's kind of rounded. It looks okay. It's not a horrible choice for this one. Remember, folks are going to be looking at this on telephones as well, or smartphones, I should say. Nobody says telephone anymore, do they? And tablets, and then also their HIST issue laptops. And so you want it to be clear on all those devices. And one way to guarantee that is by using nice big letters. In fact, what I might do here in a second is go to the PowerPoint that we created today for the faculty meeting. Today's Monday, March 23rd. And our first day back in coronavirus world. Excuse me. So Calibri is a little rounded. I tend to avoid it for things like this. I do like a nice scientific look if I'm going for a biology lesson. My favorite is going to be anything that looks clean, without any roundedness to it. Helvetica is a good one. Futura is a good one. Even Gil Sans is an okay one. The one that I used today for our presentation was a font called Avenir Next. It's cool because you've got lots of different kinds. There's a regular Avenir, there's an Avenir Next, and there's an Avenir Next Condensed. Condensed can look very biology-ish, so let's try it. I'm going to go with demi-bold, and I'm going to go ahead and go straight to a white font color. So let's call this Taxonomy. And I'm going to make that bigger. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go all caps here. Let's see what this does. And I'm going to highlight Taxonomy and make it bigger. 18-point font is not big enough for the phone. It's going to be okay if you're looking right at the computer, but it's not big enough for the phone. So let's go for 44. We can get away with larger. Let's do 54. That brings up a different point. Try to get away with the largest possible text. It's just nice on people's eyes. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like on the screen. It's still quite small compared to the whole slide. This elephant's a little bit high. I'm going to go ahead and bring the elephant and this bar down a little bit more, and we're going to make taxonomy even bigger. It'll make sense in just a second if it doesn't quite yet. I've escaped. I'm going to go ahead and bring this asset down just a touch. Taxonomy, you're getting bigger. We're going to go for 72, maybe even bigger than that, say 80. Perfect. I like it when it goes, it gets so big that the letters kick over to the others, to another row. So taxonomy is a nice size now. I'm going to go ahead and justify it to the right because the text is to the right of the slide. We're going to look at it again, see how that feels. That's already better. I think it's a little too high. And I'm going to explain why, or what I'm thinking when I say something is too high or too low. There's some basic rules of composition that I'm using here. One is that when you look at a slide, it's just like looking at a photograph. You want things to fit on what are called the rule of thirds. So just really quickly, I'm going to create a new slide here. I'm going to delete all this mumbo jumbo. And I'm going to make some lines and to sort of approximate rule of thirds here for us. So I'm basically going a third of the way across here and making a line. I'm going to copy that line because I'm lazy and I don't want to draw it again. And I'm going to go to another third. This is about a third. It's not quite right. I'm going to move this one over a little bit. Okay. This is a third, and a third. We're going to do the same thing across the image as well. So I'm going to do another line. This one is going to be a horizontal line. We're going to try roughly eyeball a third here. And then we're going to copy that and paste it again and do roughly eyeball another third right here. Okay, so that's a rough eyeball of called. When we look at the rule of thirds in photography and graphic design, areas of interest should occur in intersections and along the lines. We don't really want things in the middle. It's just sort of the way your eye works. And if you want to know why your eye works that way, this is really weird, and prepare to laugh at me, but there's some science to back this up. It has to do with the fact that when you look at a human being's face, the eyes sit right about here. The mouth and edges of the mouth sort of sit. Let's see, what's a good way to solve this problem? Get something going here that I can turn around. I'm not very good at this part. Let's see. That's my weird smirky smile here. Hey, this is obviously, this part is unrehearsed. And so it's sort of like the areas of interest of the human face. I know, it sounds like voodoo or something weird. It really is true. And if you look at photographs, professionally shot photographs, National Geographic photographs, sort of wedding photographs and portraits, you will see the rule of thirds everywhere. And we see it in painting as well. Leonardo da Vinci, famous for his use of thirds and also for what's called triangular composition. Virgin Mary here, St. John the Baptist here, baby Jesus here. You see it all the time in classical composition. So applying this basic idea to this slide, I want to move taxonomy down to where it's lying on that top third line. And so when I look at, I get a preview of it here, I can see taxonomy still too high. So I'm going to grab it and bring it down. And oops, I grabbed the wrong thing. Undo. I'm going to grab a taxonomy and bring it down until I feel like it's sort of right on that bottom third. And you'll notice that elephant is also on the bottom third. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about it now. After taxonomy, I'm going to go back into the same text box. I'm going to press enter like I've done here. I'm going to make the font much smaller. And I'm going to write a subtitle to this lesson. I'm going to put the classification of organisms. Yeah, something like that. That feels a little better, maybe. So now, when I click back to presentation mode, I've got taxonomy, the classification of organisms, and you'll see that the text actually rounds around this bacteria in the background. It's easy to read, there's plenty of contrast. And it's a nice look. We could add some more detail if we'd like, but we've come a long way and we haven't used a template. In our next little video, we're going to talk about how to use text and font to express information. We're going to stick with this basic taxonomy lesson that I'm making up on the fly. And I'm also going to beg you to send some questions so that I can attack those questions for everybody to see on these screen share videos that I'm doing at home, at night, because, hey, it's distance learning time. And there's no better way for me and the rest of the admin to support you than by actually getting into the same stuff that you're going to be doing. I can't really model a lesson face to face, but I can model some graphic design, model some design theory and presentation ideas that will hopefully help you out. Of course, I'm happy to help you with your presentations as well as we go through this turbulent, scary, apocalyptic, but also very exciting time in our history as a country, a state, city, and as a school. Of course, I believe with every bit of my being that we have a huge opportunity here to emerge from this moment Sharpstown stronger as we go forward, likely into the next school year, and we'll be back with you very soon. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I look forward to questions. Bye-bye.